There. It's 9 o'clock. We've drunk the soup and eaten the fish and chips and the English salad. The children have drunk the English water. We've eaten well this evening. That's because we live in the suburbs of London, because our name is Smith. Potatoes are very good fried and fat. The salad oil was not rancid. The oil from the grocer at the corner is better quality than the oil from the grocer across the street. Even better than the oil from the grocer at the bottom of the street, however, I prefer not to tell if their oil is bad. However, the oil from the grocer at the corner is still the best. Mary did the potatoes very well this evening. The last time she did not do them well. I do not like them when they are well done. The fish was fresh, made my mouth water. I ate 2 helpings, no, 3 helpings. That made me go to the WC. You had 3 helpings as well. Have the 3rd time eat less than the first 2 times, whereas for me I took a great deal more. Why is that? Usually it's you who eats more. It's not appetite you lack. The soup was salty. It was saltier than you. Oh. It had too many leeks and not enough onions. I regret I didn't inform Mary and had some aniseed stars. The next time I'll know better. Our little boy wanted to drink some beer. He's going to love getting tiddly. He's like you. Did you notice at table how he started the bottle? But I poured him some water and he was thirsty, so he drank it. Mary is like me. She's a good manager, thrifty, plays the piano. She never asks to drink English beer. She's like our little girl who drinks only milk and eats only porridge. It's obvious that she's only 2. She's named Peggy. The quince and bean pie was marvelous. Would have been nice, perhaps, to have some Australian burgundy with a sweet, but I did not bring the bottle to the table because I did not wish to set a bad example of gluttony for the children. One must learn to be sober and temperate. Mrs. Parker knows a Romanian grocer by the name of Popescu Rosenfeld, who has just come from Constantinople. He's a great specialist in yogurt. He's a diploma from the School of Yogurt making in Adrianople. Tomorrow I shall buy a large pot of native Romanian yogurt from him. One cannot find such things here in the suburbs of London. Yogurt is excellent for the stomach, the kidneys, the appendicitis, and the apotheosis. It was Dr. Mackenzie King told me that. He takes good care of the children of our neighbours, the Johns. He's a good doctor. One can trust him. He never prescribes anything that he hasn't tried it himself first. Before operating on Parker, his own liver operated on first, although he was not the least bit ill. Oh.
How does it happen that the doctor pulled through while Parker died?
Because the operation was successful in the doctor's case, and it was not in Parker's.
Then Mackenzie is not a good doctor. The operation should have succeeded with both of them, or else both should have died.
Why?
A conscientious doctor must die with his patient if they can't get well together. The captain of his ship goes down with his ship into the briny deep. He does not survive alone.
One cannot compare a patient with a ship.
Why not? A ship has its diseases too. Moreover, your doctor is as hale as a ship. It's why he should have perished at the same time as his patient, like the captain and his ship.
Ah, I'd never thought of that, but perhaps it's true, and yet, what conclusion do you draw from this?
That all doctors are quacks, and all patients too. Only the Royal Navy is as honest in England.
But not sailors.
Naturally. Here's a thing I don't understand. In the newspaper, they always give the age of the deceased person, but never the age of the newly born. That doesn't make sense.
I never thought of that.
hear that Bobby Watson died.
My God, the poor man, how did he die?
Why do you pretend to be astonished? You know very well that he's been dead these past 2 years. Surely you remember we attended his funeral a year and a half ago?
Oh, yes, I do remember. I remembered right away, but I do not understand why you yourself were so surprised to see it in the paper.
It wasn't in the paper. It's been 3 years since his death was announced. I remembered it through an association of ideas.
What a pity. He was so well preserved.
He was the handsomest corpse in Great Britain. He didn't look his age, poor Bobby. He'd been dead for 4 years and he was still warm. A veritable living corpse. And how cheerful he was.
Poor Bobby.
Which poor Bobby do you mean?
Why, it is his wife that I mean. She's Bobby too, Bobby Watson. Since they both had the same name, you could never tell one from the other when you saw them together. It was only after he died would you really tell which was which. And there are still people today who confuse her with the deceased and offer their condolences. Did you know her?
I only met her once, by chance, at Bobby's burial.
I've never seen her. Is she pretty?
She has regular features, and yet one cannot say that she is pretty. She's a little too big and too stout.
Oh.
Her features are not regular, and yet one can still say that she's quite pretty. She's a little too small and too thin.
Oh.
She's a voice teacher.
And when do they plan to be married, those two?
Next spring, at the latest.
We shall go to their wedding, I suppose.
We shall have to give them a wedding present. I wonder what?
We shall give them one of the 7 silver salvers that were given us at our wedding, for which have never been of any use. How sad for her to be left a widow so young.
Fortunately, she had no children.
Children? My God! That's what she needed, the poor woman. How could she have managed?
She's still young. She might very well be married. She looks so well in mourning.
But who would take care of the children? You know very well that they have a boy and a girl. What are their names?
Bobby and Bobby like their parents. Bobby Watson's uncle, old Bobby Watson, is a rich man and quite fond of the boy. He might very well pay for Bobby's education.
Well, that'd be proper. And that way Bobby Watson's aunt, old Bobby Watson, might very well in turn pay for the education of Bobby Watson, Bobby Watson's daughter. That way Bobby Watson's mother, can she remarry? Has she anyone in mind?
Yes, a cousin of Bobby Watson.
Who? Bobby Watson?
Which Bobby Watson do you mean?
Why, the son of old Bobby Watson, the late Bobby Watson's other uncle.
No, it's not that one. It's someone else. It's Bobby Watson, the son of old Bobby Watson, the late Bobby Watson's aunt.
Are you referring to Bobby Watson, the commercial traveller?
All Bobby Watsons are commercial travellers.
Ah, what a difficult trade. However, they do well at it.
Yes. When there's no competition.
And when is there no competition?
On Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Tuesdays.
Ah, 3 days a week. And what does Bobby do on those days?
He rests, he sleeps.
But why doesn't Bobby work on those days if there's no competition?
So to know everything. I can't answer all your idiotic questions.
Are you trying to humiliate
You know
me?
very well that I'm not.
Men are all alike. You sit there all day long, a cigarette in your teeth, or you powder your nose and you rouge your lips 50 times a day, or else you drink like a fish.
But what would you say if you saw men acting like women do? Smoking all day, powdering their nose, rouging their lips, drinking whiskey?
Well, it's nothing to me. But if you're only saying that to annoy me, I don't care for that kind of joke. You know that very well.
Oh, my little ducky daddles. What a little spitfire you are. You know I only meant that as a joke. What a ridiculous pair of old lovers we are. Come, let's put the lights out and go bye-byes.
I'm the maid. I've spent a very pleasant afternoon. I've been to the cinema with a man and I've seen a film with some women. After the cinema, we went to drink some brandy and milk and then read the newspaper.
Oh, I hope you spent a pleasant afternoon. And you went to the cinema with a man and you drank some brandy and milk.
And the newspaper?
Mr. and Mrs. Martin, your guests are at the door. They were waiting for me. They didn't dare come in by themselves. They were supposed to have dinner with you this evening.
Oh, we were expecting them and we were hungry. Since they didn't put in an appearance, we are going to start dinner without them. We've had nothing to eat all day. We should not have gone out.
But it was you who gave me permission.
We didn't do it on purpose.
I bought me a chamber pot.
My little Mary, please open the door and ask Mr. and Mrs. Martin to step in. They will change quickly.
Why have you come so late? You're not very polite. People should be punctual, do you understand? But sit down there anyway and wait down at your ear.
Excuse me, madam, but it seems to me, unless I'm mistaken, that I've met you somewhere before.
I too, sir. It seems to me that I've met you somewhere before.
Was it by any chance at Manchester that I caught a glimpse of you, madam?
That is very possible. I am originally from the city of Manchester, but I do not have a good memory, sir. I cannot say whether it was there that I caught a glimpse of you or not.
Madam, I took the 8:30 morning train, which arrives in London at 4:45.
How curious that is. How very bizarre. And what a coincidence. I took the same train, sir. I too.
And to tell the truth, madam, it is quite possible that we saw each other there. And as I think of it, it seems to me even very likely.
Good God, that's curious. I had seat number 6 next to the window, my dear sir.
How curious that is. And what a coincidence. We were then seated facing each other, my dear lady. It is then that we must have seen each other.
It is indeed possible after all, but I do not recall it, my dear sir.
Dear madam, were you not the lady who asked me to place a suitcase in the luggage rack and who thanked me and gave me permission to smoke?
But of course that must have been I, sir. How curious it is, how curious it is, and what a coincidence.
Since coming to London, I've resided in Bromfield Street, dear
How
lady.
curious that is, how very bizarre, and what a coincidence. I too, since coming to London, I resided in Bromfield Street, my dear sir.
How curious that is. And bizarre. And what a coincidence. Perhaps we've seen each other in Bromfield Street, dear lady.
How curious it is, how very bizarre. It is indeed possible after all, but I do not recall it, my dear sir.
I reside at number 19, dear lady.
How curious that is. I also reside at number 19, my dear sir.
Well then, well then, well then, well then. Perhaps we've seen each other in that house, dear lady.
How curious it is, how very bizarre. It is indeed possible after all, but I do not recall it, sir.
My flat is number 8, dear lady.
How curious it is. Good Lord, how bizarre, and what a coincidence. I too reside in flat number 8, dear sir.
How curious that is. 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 And what a coincidence! You know, in my bedroom, there's a bed. This room with the bed is at the end of the corridor between the WC and the bookcase, dear lady.
What a coincidence. Good Lord, what a coincidence. My bedroom too has a bed. And is at the end of the corridor between the WC, dear sir, and the bookcase.
Then, madam, we live in the same room and we sleep in the same bed, dear lady. It is there that we must have met.
It is indeed possible, and perhaps even last night, but I do not recall it, sir.
I have a little girl, a little daughter. She lives with me, dear lady. She is 2 years old. She is blonde. She has a white eye and a red eye. She is very pretty. Her name is Alice.
How very bizarre. I too have a little girl. She is 2 years old, has a white eye and a red eye. She is very pretty, and her name is Alice too, dear sir.
How curious that is. And bizarre. Perhaps they're the same, dear lady.
It is indeed possible after all.
Then, madam, I believe there can be no doubt about it. We have seen each other before, and you are my own wife. Elizabeth, I have found you again.
Donald, it's you, darling.
Elizabeth and Donald are now too happy to be able to hear me. I can therefore let you in on a secret. Elizabeth is not Elizabeth, and Donald is not Donald. And here is the proof. The child that Donald spoke of is not Elizabeth's daughter. They are not the same person. Donald's daughter has one white eye and one red eye, like Elizabeth's daughter. Whereas Donald's child has a white right eye and a red left eye, Elizabeth's child has a red right eye and a white left eye. Thus, all of Donald's system of deduction collapses when it comes up against this last obstacle, which destroys his whole theory. In spite of the extraordinary coincidences which seem to be definitive proofs, Donald and Elizabeth, not being the parents of the same child, are not Donald and Elizabeth. It is in vain that he thinks he is Donald. It is in vain that she thinks she is Elizabeth. He believes in vain that she is Elizabeth. She believes in vain that he is Donald. They are sadly deceived. But who is the true Donald? Who is the true Elizabeth? Who has any interest in prolonging this confusion? I don't know. Let's not try to know. Let's leave things as they are. My real name is Sherlock Holmes.
Darling, now that we have found each other again, let's try not to lose each other anymore, and live as before.
Yes, darling.
Good evening, dear friends. Please forgive us having made you wait so long. We thought we should extend you the courtesy for which you are entitled. As soon as you learned and kind enough to join us in our frying engagement, we hurried to dress for the occasion.
We've had nothing to eat all day, and we've been waiting full whole hours for you. Why do you come so late?
Oh, but definitely.
We all have colds.
Nevertheless, it's not chilly.
There's no draft.
Oh no, fortunately.
Oh dear. Oh dear, oh dear.
Don't you feel well?
No, he's wet his pants.
Oh, Sarah, at your age, you shouldn't.
Your heart is ageless.
That's true.
So they say.
They also say the opposite.
The truth lies somewhere between the two.
That's true.
Since you travel so much, you must have many interesting things to tell us.
My dear, tell us what you've seen today.
Oh, it's scarcely worth the trouble, for no one would believe me.
We're not going to question your sincerity.
You will offend us if you think that.
You will offend them, my dear, if you think that.
Oh, well, today I witnessed something extraordinary. Something really incredible.
Tell us quickly, my dear.
This is going to be amusing.
At last.
Well, today, when I went shopping to buy some vegetables, which are getting to be dearer and dearer,
Where's it all going to end?
Don't interrupt, my dear. It's very rude.
in the street near a cafe, I saw a man, properly dressed, about 50 years old, or not even that here.
What?
What?
Don't interrupt, my dear. You're disgusting.
Did you went up at first, you bore?
Hush. What was this man doing?
Well, I'm sure you'll say that I'm making it up, but he was down on one knee and he was bent over.
Oh.
Yes, bent over.
Not possible.
Yes, bent over. I went near him to see what he was doing.
And?
He was tying his shoelace, which had come undone.
Fantastic! If someone else had told me this, I'd not believed it.
Why not? One sees things even more extraordinary every day when one walks around. For instance, today in the underground, I myself saw a man quietly sitting on a seat, reading his newspaper.
What a character!
Perhaps it was the same man. Goodness! Someone is ringing.
There must be somebody there. I'll go and see. Nobody?
I'm going to give you another example.
Goodness, someone is ringing.
There must be somebody there. I'll go and see. Nobody?
You were saying you were going to give us another example.
Oh yes.
Goodness, someone is ringing.
I'm not going to the door again.
Yes, but there must be someone there.
The first time there was no one. The second time there was no one. Why do you think there's someone there now?
Because someone has rung.
That's no reason.
What? When one hears the doorbell ring, that means someone is at the door ringing to have the door opened.
Not always. You've just seen otherwise.
In most cases, yes.
As for me, when I go to visit someone, I ring in order to be admitted. I think that everyone does the same thing, and each time there's a ring, there must be someone there.
You see, that is true in theory. But in reality, things happen differently. You have just seen otherwise.
Your wife is right.
Oh, you women. You always stand up for each other.
Well, I'll go and see. You can't say that I'm obstinate when you see that there's no one there. You see? No one there. Oh, these men who always think they're right and who are always wrong.
Goodness, someone is ringing. There must be someone there.
I'm not going to the door again. Experience teaches us that when one hears the doorbell ring, it's because there's never anyone there.
Never.
That's not entirely
In
accurate.
fact, it's false. When one hears the doorbell ring, it is because there's someone there.
My husband won't admit he's wrong.
My husband is very obstinate.
There's someone there.
It's not impossible.
No.
Yes.
I tell you no. In any case, if you wish to know, go and look yourself.
I'll go. Oh, how do you do? It's the fire chief.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Good evening, Mrs. Smith. You appear to be angry.
Oh,
You see, my wife is a little chagrined at having been proved wrong.
There's been an argument between Mr. and Mrs. Smith, Mr. Fire Chief.
this is no business of yours. I beg you not to involve outsiders in our family arguments.
Oh, my dear, this is not so serious. The fire chief is an old friend of the family. His mother courted me, and I knew his father. He asked me for my daughter's hand in marriage, ever if I had one.
Oh.
And he died waiting.
That's neither his fault nor yours.
Well, what's this all about?
Well, my husband was claiming.
No, it was you who was claiming.
Yes, it was she.
No, it was he.
Don't get excited. You tell me, Mrs. Smith.
Well, this is how it was. It's difficult for me to speak openly to you, but a fireman is also a confessor.
Well then,
My husband was claiming that each time the doorbell rings, there's always somebody there.
It is possible.
And I was saying that each time the doorbell rings, there's never anyone there.
It might seem strange.
But it's been proved by facts. Not by theoretical demonstrations, but by facts.
That's false. Since the fire chief is here, he rang the bell, I opened the door, and there he was.
When?
But just now.
Yes, but that was when the doorbell rang for the fourth time, and the fourth time does not count.
Never. It is only the first 3 times that count.
Mr. Fire Chief, permit me in my turn to ask you several questions.
go right ahead.
When I opened the door and saw you, was it really you who had rung the bell?
Yes, it was I.
You were at the door and you rang in order to be admitted?
I do not deny it.
You see, I was right. When one hears the doorbell ring, it means someone rang it. You certainly cannot say that the fire chief is not someone.
Certainly not. I repeat, I was only speaking the first 3 times, since the fourth time does not count.
And when the doorbell rang the first time, was it you?
No, it was not I.
You see, the doorbell rang and there was no one there.
Perhaps it was someone else.
Were you standing at the door for a long time?
3/4 of an hour.
And you saw no one?
No one. I am sure of it.
And did you hear the bell when it rang the second time?
Yes, and that wasn't I either. And there was still no one there.
Victory, I was right.
Not so fast. What were you doing at the door?
Nothing. I was just standing there. I was thinking of many things.
But the third time, it was not you who rang?
Yes, it was I.
When the door was open, there was no one in sight.
That is because I had hidden myself as a joke.
Don't make jokes, Mr. Fire Chief. That business is too sad.
In short, we still do not know whether when the doorbell rings there's someone there or not.
Never anyone.
Always someone.
I'm going to reconcile you. You are both partly right. When the doorbell rings, sometimes there is someone, other times there is no one.
This seems logical to me.
I think so too.
Life is quite simple, really. Now, go on and kiss each other.
We just kissed a little while ago.
And they'll kiss each other tomorrow. They've plenty of time.
Mr. Fire Chief, since you've helped us settle this, please stay for a little while longer. Take off your helmet and sit down.
Excuse me, but I can't stay long. I should like to take off my helmet, but I haven't time to sit down. I must admit, I have come to you for a different reason. I am on official business.
What can we do for you, Mr. Fire Chief?
Well, excuse my indiscretion. You don't mind, in front of them...
Say whatever you like.
We're old friends. They tell us everything. Speak.
Well, is there a fire here?
Why do you ask us that?
It is because I have orders to extinguish all the fires in the city.
All?
Yes, all.
I don't know. I don't think so. Do you want me to go and look?
There can't be one here. There's no smell of anything burning.
Are you sure? There's nothing in the chimney, something in the attic or in the cellar, a little fire, just starting at least.
I'm sorry to disappoint you, but I don't believe we have anything here at the moment. I will surely notify you if we do have something.
Please don't forget. It would be a great help.
That's a promise.
And there's nothing burning at your house either.
No, unfortunately.
Things aren't going so well just now.
Very poorly. There's been almost nothing. A few trifles, a chimney, a barn, nothing important. Doesn't bring in much. And since there are no returns, the profits on output are very meager.
Times are bad. It's true all over. It's the same this year with businesses and agriculture as it is with fires. Nothing is prospering.
No wheat, no fires.
No floods either.
But there is some sugar.
Because it is imported.
It's harder in the case of fires. The tariffs are too high.
All the same, there's an occasional asphyxiation by gas, but that's unusual too. For example, a young woman asphyxiated herself last week. She had left the gas on.
Had she forgotten it?
No, but she thought it was her comb.
These confusions are always dangerous.
Did you go to see the match dealer?
There's nothing doing there. He's insured against fires.
Why don't you go see the Vicar of Wakefield and use my name?
I don't have the right to extinguish clergymen's fires. The bishop would get angry. Besides, they put out their fires themselves, or else they have them extinguished by Vestal virgins.
Go see the Durans.
Can't do that either. He's not English. He's only been naturalized. And naturalized citizens have the right to have houses, but not the right to have them put out if they're burned.
Nevertheless, when it set fire last year, it was put out just the same.
He did that himself, clandestinely, but it's not I who would report him.
Neither would I.
Mr. Fire Chief, if you are not too pressed, stay for a little while longer. You'd be doing us a favor.
Shall I tell you some stories?
Yes,
Yes,
some stories, hurrah!
What's even more interesting is that the firemen's stories are all true, and they're based on experience.
I speak from my own experience. Truth. Nothing but the truth. No fiction.
That's right. Truth is never found in books, only in life.
Begin.
Begin!
Be quiet, he is beginning.
Excuse me. Don't look at me like that. You embarrass me. You know that I am shy. I'm going to try to begin anyhow, but promise me you won't listen.
But if we don't listen to you, we won't hear you.
I didn't think of that.
I told you, he's just a boy.
Oh, the sweet child.
Chin up.
The dog and the cow, an experimental fable. Once upon a time, another cow asked another dog, "Why have you not swallowed your trunk?" "Pardon me," replied the dog. "It is because I thought I was an elephant."
What is the moral?
That's for you to find out.
He's right.
Tell us another.
A young calf had eaten too much ground glass. As a result, it was obliged to give birth. It brought forth a cow into the world. However, since the calf was male, the cow could not call him mama, nor could she call him papa because the calf was too little. As a result of this, the calf was obliged to get married, and the registry office carried out all the details completely a la mode.
On the mode decay.
Like tripes.
You'd heard that one.
It was in all the papers.
It happened not far from our house.
I'll tell you another. The cock. Once upon a time, a cock wished to play the dog, but it had no luck because everyone recognized him right away.
Nevertheless, the dog that wished to play the cock was never recognized.
I'll tell you one. The snake and the fox. Once upon a time, a snake came up to a fox and he said, "It seems to me that I know you." Well, the fox replied, "Me too." Then said the snake, "Give me some money." "Well, the fox doesn't give money," replied the tricky animal, who, in order to escape, jumped into a deep ravine full of strawberries and chicken honey. The snake was waiting for him with a Mephistophelian laugh. Ha ha ha! The fox pulled his knife, shouting, "I'm going to teach you how to live." He then took to flight, turning his back. But he had no luck. The snake was quicker. With a well-chosen blow of his fist, he struck the fox in the middle of the forehead, which broke into 1,000 pieces, all while he cried, "No, no!" 4 times no. "I'm not your daughter!"
It's interesting.
It's not bad.
My congratulations.
Not so good. Anyway, I've heard it before.
It's terrible.
It wasn't even true.
No, unfortunately.
It's your turn, dear lady.
I only know one. I will tell it to you. It's called The Bouquet.
My wife has always been a romantic.
She's a true Englishwoman.
Here it is. Once upon a time, a fiancé gave a bouquet of flowers to his fiancée who said thanks. But before she could say thanks, he took back the flowers in order to teach her a good lesson. He said, "I take these back." He said goodbye, and then he went off in all directions.
Oh, charming.
We have a wife, Mr. Smith, of whom all the world is jealous.
It's true. My wife is intelligence personified. She's even more intelligent than I. In any case, she's much more feminine. Everyone says so.
Let's have another, Mr. Fire Chief.
Oh no, it's too late.
Tell us one anyway.
I'm too tired.
Please do us a favor.
I beg you.
No.
You have a heart of ice. We're sitting on hot coal.
I implore you.
Shall I?
Yes, yes, 1,000 times yes.
Righto.
He agrees. He's going to bore us again.
No luck, I was too polite.
The head called. My brother-in-law had, on the paternal side, a first cousin whose maternal uncle had a father-in-law whose paternal grandfather had married as his second wife a young lady, of whom he was enamored, by whom he had a son who married an intrepid lady pharmacist who was none other than the niece of an unknown 4th-class petty officer of the Royal Navy, and who had a adopted father who had an aunt who spoke Spanish fluently and who was, perhaps, one of the granddaughters of an engineer who died young, himself the grandson of an owner of a vineyard which produced mediocre wine, but who had had a second cousin, a sergeant major, a stay-at-home, whose first husband had been raised up to marry a footman who had known Rothschild, and whose stunted great-grandfather wore spectacles which had been given to him by a man from Portugal, his brother-in-law, who was the foster brother of the son of a forester, who was the foster brother of a country doctor, who was married to another woman who was married to a country doctor, whose third wife...
I knew that third wife, if I'm not mistaken. She ate chicken sit on a hornet's nest.
It's not the same one. As I was saying, whose third wife was the daughter of the best midwife in the region, and who early left a widow.
Like my wife.
Had married a glazier who was full of life, and who had had, by the daughter of a station master, a child who burned his bridges.
His britches!
And now his bridge game.
And had been married to an oyster woman, whose father had a brother, mayor of a small town, who was married to a blonde school teacher, whose cousin, a fly fisherman,
A fly by night.
was married to another blonde school teacher named Marie, too, whose brother was married to another Marie, also a blonde school teacher,
Since she's blonde, she must be Marie.
and whose father had been reared in Canada by an old woman who was the niece of a priest, whose grandmother, occasionally in the winter, like everyone else, caught a cold.
A curious story, almost unbelievable.
If you catch a cold, you should get yourself a coat.
It's a useless precaution, but absolutely necessary.
Excuse me, Mr. Fire Chief, but I did not follow your story very well. At the end, when we got to the grandmother of the priest, I got mixed up.
One always gets mixed up in the hands of priests.
Oh yes, Mr. Fire Chief. Begin again. Everyone wants to hear.
Ah, I don't know if I'd be able to. I'm on official business. It depends on what time it is.
We don't have time here, sir.
But the clock.
Runs badly. It's contradictory. It always indicates the opposite of what the hour really is.
Madam, sir.
What do you want?
What have you come in here for?
I hope Madam and sir will excuse me, and these ladies and gentlemen too. I would like to tell a story myself.
What is she saying?
I believe our friend's maid is going crazy. She wants to tell us a story too.
Who does she think she is? Oh!
Why are you butting in?
It's really uncalled for, Mary.
Oh, but it is she. Incredible.
And you?
Incredible. Here.
What does all this mean?
You know each other?
And how?
I'm so glad to see you again at last.
Oh! This is too much. Here, in our home, in the suburbs of London.
It's not proper.
It is she who extinguished my first fires.
I'm your little fire rose.
Oh.
If that is the case, dear friends, these emotions are understandable, human, honorable.
All that is human is honorable.
Even so, I don't like to see it here among us.
She's not been properly brought up.
Oh, you have too many prejudices.
What I think is that a maid, after all, even though it's none of my business, is never anything but a maid.
Even if she can sometimes be a rather good detective.
Let me go.
Don't be upset. It's not so bad, really.
You two are very touching, but at the same time, a little,
Yes, that's exactly the word.
a little too exhibitionistic.
There's a native British modesty, forgive me for attempting yet again to define my thought, not commonly understood by foreigners, even by specialists, thanks to which, if I may thus express myself, of course I don't mean to refer to you as...
I was going to tell you.
Don't tell us anything.
Oh, yes.
My little Mary, please go quietly to the kitchen and read your poems before the mirror.
You know, even though I'm not a maid, I also read poems before the mirror.
This morning, when you looked at yourself in the mirror, you didn't see yourself.
That's because I wasn't there yet.
All the same, I could perhaps recite a little poem for you.
My little Mary, you're so frightfully obstinate.
I'm going to recite a poem then. Is that agreed? It is a poem entitled The Fire, in honour of the fire chief. The fire. The polypoids were burning in the wood. A stone caught fire. The castle caught fire. The forest caught fire. The men caught fire. The women caught fire. The birds caught fire. The fish caught fire. The water caught fire. The sky caught fire. The ashes caught fire. The smoke caught fire. Everything caught fire, caught fire, caught fire.
That sent chills up my spine.
And yet, there's a certain warmth in those lines.
I thought it was marvelous.
All the
Or
same.
exaggerated.
Just a minute. I admit, this is my perception of the world, my dream, my idea. And now I will tell you that I must go. Since you don't have the time here, I must tell you that in exactly 3/4 of an hour and 16 minutes, I am having a fire at the other end of the city. Consequently, I must hurry, even though it will be quite unimportant.
What will it be, a little chimney fire?
Not even that. A straw fire and a bit of heartburn.
Oh,
Well, we're sorry to see you go.
you've been very entertaining.
Thanks to you, we have passed a truly Cartesian quarter of an hour.
Speaking of that, the Bald Soprano.
She always wears her hair in the same style.
Ah, then goodbye, ladies and gentlemen.
Good luck, and a good fire.
Let's hope so, for everybody.
I can buy a pocket knife for my brother, but you can't buy Ireland for your grandfather.
One walks on his feet, but heat with electricity or coal.
He who sells an ox today will have an egg tomorrow.
In real life, one must look out of the window.
One can sit down on a chair when the chair doesn't have any.
One must always think of everything.
The ceiling is above, the floor is below.
When I say yes, it's only a matter of speaking.
To each his own.
Take a circle, caress it, and it'll turn vicious.
Our schoolmaster teaches his pupils to read, but the cat suckles her young when they are small.
Nevertheless, it was the cow who gave us tails.
When I'm in the country, I love the solitude and the quiet.
You're not old enough yet for that.
Benjamin Franklin was right, and you are more nervous than he.
What are the 7 days of the week?
Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Edward is a clerk, his sister Nancy is a typist, and his brother William a shop assistant.
An odd family.
I prefer a bird in the bush to a sparrow in the barrow.
Rather steak in a chalet than gristle in a castle.
An Englishman's home is truly his castle.
I don't know enough Spanish to make myself understood.
I'll give you my mother-in-law's slippers if you give me your husband's coffin.
I'm looking for a Monophysite priest to marry our maid.
Bread is a staff, whereas bread is also a staff, and an oak springs from an oak every morning at dawn.
My uncle lives in the country, but that's none of the midwife's business.
Paper is for writing, the cat's for the rat, cheese is for scratching.
The car goes very fast, but the cook beats the batter better.
Don't be turkeys. Rather kiss the conspirator.
Charity begins at home.
I'm waiting in the aqueduct to meet me in my windmill.
One can prove that social progress is definitely better with sugar.
To hell with polishing.
One doesn't polish spectacles with black wax.
Yes, but with money one can buy anything.
I'd rather kill a rabbit than sing the garden.
Cockatoos, 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 cockatoos.
Such cocker, 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 such cocker.
Such cascades of cockers, 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 such cascades of cockers.
Dogs have fleas. Dogs have fleas.
Cactus, coccyx, crocus, cockaded, cockroach.
In cask you, in cascus.
I'd rather lay an egg in a box than go and steal an ox.
Rah! Rah! Let me gnash my teeth.
Crocodile.
Let's go and slap you this
I'm
east.
going to live in my cabana among my cacao trees.
Cacao trees on cacao farms don't bear coconuts, they yield cocoa. Cacao trees on cacao farms don't bear coconuts, they yield cocoa. Cacao trees on cacao farms don't bear coconuts, they yield cocoa.
Mice have lice, lice haven't mice.
Don't brooch my brooch.
Don't smooch the brooch.
Groom the goose, don't goose the groom.
The goose grew.
Groom your tooth.
Groom the bridegroom. Groom the bridegroom.
Seduce the seduce.
Scaramouche.
Saint the tooth.
Go take a douche.
I've been goosed.
Saint the goose speaks to my cartoon.
Who'd stoop to blame? I'd never choose to snoop.
Robert.
Browning.
Rudyard.
Kipling.
Robert Kipling.
Rudyard Browning.
Silly gobble gobblers, silly gobble gobblers.
Marietta spot the pot.
Krishnamurti, Krishnamurti, Krishnamurti.
The Pope elopes. The Pope's got no horoscope. The horoscope's bespoke.
Bazaar, Balzac, bazooka.
Bazaar, Bozar, Braziers.
A-E-I-O-U. 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 I.
B, C, D, F, G, L, M, N, P, R, S, T, V, W, X, Z.
From sage to stewed, from stage to surge.
Choo choo choo, choo choo choo, choo choo choo.
It's.
Not.
That.
Way,
It's.
O.
here. It's not that way, it's over here. It's not that way, it's over here. It's not that way, it's over here.
There. It's 9 o'clock. We've drunk the soup and eaten the fish and chips and the English salad. The children have drunk the English water. We've eaten well this evening. That's because we live in the suburbs of London and because our name is Smith.
at the end of the show, so bear with us. Who's going first?
We would like to thank Heidi Heimark for writing the girls' play and for being so receptive to our suggestions, and also for being our customer.
We have to say, of course, a thank you to one of the most important people that was really crucial in making all this happen. Ellen Graham. Ellen's our director, and if you didn't know that already, it's been a really stressful 3 months, and she's got us through all of it. And she's essentially been leading 4 different casts, the 4 different plays, and she just did a really great job, and we're so thankful for her. And she's been our teacher and mentor, and for some of us for 4 years. I started when I was a freshman, and she's really been a leader for me, and I'm really thankful for her. Thank you.
All right. We would also like to thank the seniors. I will be talking about William here. He's a great guy. He's just a super welcoming guy. Last year in Blue Stockings, oh, yep, there you go. It just kind of appeared. He's such a sweet guy. He got Ellen the flowers. So as you can see, he's just a great guy. Hilarious, super nice, and I love being in your cast.
So, I'm talking about Julia, and I've only had the pleasure of knowing her since this year, basically. She joined junior year, and she was in Nicholas Nickleby, which from what I understand, was incredibly stressful most of the time. And so she's a great person, and she's just a joy to have around.
This is Ray McCann. She is so multifaceted and so kind, and I have the pleasure of calling her my friend. She is not only a talented actress, obviously, but a talented director and a talented stage manager, and is just going to go so far. So, love you, Ray.
I'm talking about Camille, and I've known Camille since freshman year, and I've always really looked up to her as a really fun, easygoing theater presence. She's also super talented, and we're all going to miss you next year.
This is Tia. I met her last year in Blue Stockings when we were in love. So much fun. I'm really glad I've gotten to work with you.